Hey all, Rob here. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the notification button so you know when future videos are out. And in this post, I would like to talk about the saga of the Scarlet Spider, Ben Reilly, and now known as Chasm, and the villain. First, it is ridiculous to expect that this Chasm gimmick will be the future of the character long term. Eventually, he will become the Scarlet Spider again and become a hero. So this whole bad guy thing is just a forgettable phase. It's not going to be his permanent character from now on. But you see, going back to the 1990s, in the Clone Saga, to finish the story, Ben Reilly got killed by Norman Osborn and disintegrated. The character was gone for decades, and honestly, it should have stayed that way. The character should never have returned in modern comics at all. You still had Kane, who has had so many different changes in personality and direction as a character, the Kane character, and he took on the identity of the Scarlet Spider. But I want to get into that just a little bit later. So you got the Ben Reilly character, who they brought back a couple of years ago, and they made him a villain called, I believe it was the Jackal, and he was cloning characters, and he was involved, and he was a bad guy, and then he reformed and got the Scarlet Spider identity again. So he was a bad guy, they brought him back, put Scarlet Spider, they turned him into Chasm. It's like the creative teams have no direction where to take this character, no long-term plans, and they honestly don't know what to do with the character when you consider all the different changes they have done to him when they brought him back. They don't know what to do with the character. And again, personally, it never should have been brought back. But now that they brought him back, the chances of them killing the character again and not bringing him back are, let's be honest, it's not going to happen. These are properties to make money off of. They went to the work of getting the character back, so they're never going to get rid of him again long term. I just don't see it happening. He's always going to be around the books. This Ben Reilly, this Chasm, whatever you want to call him. So he never should have returned, honestly. But now that you got him back, you're never going to get rid of him. I just don't see it happening. So here's what they should have done, in my opinion, is in the 1990s, they shouldn't have killed the character. And where I would have taken the book in the 1990s, after the Clone Saga finished, and where I would take the character right now, is I'll explain in a bit. First, they had Kane took up the Scarlet Spider identity, and he went to Houston, Texas. And that book failed, and I'll tell you why it failed. Besides being ridiculous, a Spider-Man character in Texas. The Spider-Man character, and the same for the Scarlet Spider, should only operate in New York. Not LA, not Texas, not Chicago, not any other urban city. Just New York. Once you get the character of Spider-Man, or let's say his clone, the Scarlet Spider, once you get these type of characters outside of the New York environment, it's just not the same. Not for a long-term setting. So what you should have done is, and what I would still say they should do, is first his classic Scarlet Spider costume. It's a good look. And then what you would do with the book is have Ben Reilly, Scarlet Spider, and Spider-Man, Peter Parker, both operating in New York City. That's it. And the Scarlet Spider can run into Spider-Man villains. And what you would do is you would treat the two characters where they wouldn't cross over their civilian lives the supporting members of their books. Just like Ben Reilly was in the 1990s working at a coffee shop, and they were building up his own supporting crew that knew who Ben Reilly was, his own little world outside of the Peter Parker world. And it could still do is put the Scarlet Spider in New York, his costume, all of that. Don't let him really interact with the Peter Parker supporting members. Don't let him really interact too much with Peter Parker or Mary Jane or Liz Allen, or if they bring back Harry Osborn again, J. Jonah. Don't let him interact with those characters much. Just let him interact socially with his own little characters in his own world, his own separate job, his own people. Keep the world separate. Make some villains just for the Scarlet Spider. Or you could inherit villains that are not really popular in Spider-Man, like minor characters, and then build them up in the Scarlet Spider book. And that's how I would have handled it. If I was like an editor, I would have just say both characters, Scarlet Spider and Spider-Man, operate in the New York City area. And their worlds are pretty much separate. The members of each one's world don't really cross over, and they could share villains overall, and then that would be the book. That would be the successful formula. Not going to Texas, not making him a villain, none of this. And as for keep the blonde hair, as for them looking alike, because Ben Reilly is a clone, I would just do the whole Clark Kent, when he wears glasses, they don't know he's Superman. You just gotta play with that comic suspension of disbelief where Ben Reilly with blonde hair and Peter Parker, and if anyone meets them, you kind of look familiar, but I just can't place it. Just that whole illusion, because it would be obvious you're the same character. But no one knows Clark Kent is Superman because he wears the glasses. So you just gotta go with it, the suspension of disbelief, and say, when Ben Reilly's there, nobody knows he's Peter Parker. They just know him as Ben Reilly. There's no figuring it out that is Peter Parker because he's a clone. They look alike. Just assume, because with the blonde hair, that if anyone ever sees them together, they'd be, you kind of look familiar, but I just can't place it. That's how I would take it. So you got the Ben Reilly world separate, you got the Peter Parker world separate, and you got the two characters of Spider-Man and Scarlet Spider in New York, and that's how I would take the book as an editor. That's the direction, that's the future of the character, and just keep at it. And don't even cross over the two characters too much. Just when you do, just make it a special occasion, like once a year. Because you really don't want the Scarlet Spider always involved in Spider-Man's world. And the same goes for Spider-Man in the Scarlet Spider's world. Just really keep it separate for the most part. And that would be a successful book formula to bring the Scarlet Spider back and to make it popular. Because once you get it outside of New York, or you make him a villain or any of this stuff, it doesn't last. And that's how to restore that world. That's what I feel anyway. So let me know what you think. Thanks for watching. Subscribe if you haven't. Stay safe, my friends, and I will talk to you later.